And it's 15 minutes till 6 o'clock. We have a few names here. Okay, I can allow 3 minutes per speaker. So SPRINGPESESON. Step forward, please. And I'm sorry, I'm not getting reading these. Right in front, please. And I would like to ask what you're speaking. Come on up, please. Microphone, please. Thank you.
I'm here to discuss the proposed moratorium on zoning restrictions.
Okay, that's on the agenda, so if you, I'll give you 3 minutes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I live in Del Rio, and my family has spent the last 18 weeks trying to rebuild our house. We had 3 feet of water on the roof. If this moratorium passes, we will lose our home. We carry a mortgage, and we're required to have flood insurance. I've spoken to my flood insurance currently, and they said they're unlikely to serve our area at all without the NFIP, which we would be non-compliant with if this moratorium passes. If they do serve our area, they told me I would be looking at close to $50,000 a year. Right now, my family pays $5,000 a year. If I can't afford flood insurance, the mortgage company calls my loan, and my house that I'm trying so hard to save is gone. And it won't just be me. It'll be everyone who carries a mortgage on the floodplain, whether they have mortgage or not. On top of that, the people that this moratorium is intended to help, who don't have mortgages right now, will find that their property is uninsurable, which means they can't get a building loan, which means they'll have difficulty selling if they choose to, which means they can't take out a home equity line of credit if they need it to help them rebuild. On top of that, the county would lose all of the funding we're getting from FEMA right now for infrastructure. Mayor Mathis was talking about one bridge the other day that's going to cost $7.5 million, $7.25 million. FEMA's paying 75% of that. That's $5.8 million on one bridge. I don't know what the total infrastructure cost in this county is, but it's millions of dollars that we will lose if we pass this moratorium. This will cost.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's up, and thank you very much. I'm sorry, I would like to give you more time, but I can't. Tracy Noms, N-O-M''S, please.
It's Norris.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I just can't read your writing there. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to give my opinion, because I lived on the river for 23 years. Me and my husband, we've lived here our whole lives, growing up in Cocke County high schools, have a child we're raising in this county. We bought our house back in April of 2002. We paid flood insurance through the NFIP program because we had to with a mortgage. We knew when we bought the house we'd have to. In December of 2004, we got a letter in the mail from Fletcher Urban, who was the past county attorney, that we were not in flood compliance because we needed flood vents. So guess what? We went and bought flood vents and got flood compliant. I can pass this letter out. I made copies. Someone was actually telling people what they need to do with the NFIP program. So I don't understand how the ball got dropped, that no one else knows. So after all this time, we've done the correct thing. We paid our mortgage off, kept the insurance, because it's the right thing to do in case the flood happens, because we're in a floodplain. So after all this time, we've done the right thing. Now we're worried that everything we've ever worked for is going to be worthless in land value if we ever want to sell our home. We live here, we've lived here our whole lives. Either way, I feel like this is a county issue that of handling things the correct way, past and future. And I feel like people who pay their taxes all these years should be confident that the leadership knows what they're doing. And back 20 years ago, when Mr. Urban sent me this letter and we done the right thing, you know, I feel like I don't understand why this isn't still happening, you know. But anyhow, the flood insurance, it does cost money. But we budget, we work, you know, full time, both of us do. We pay our bills. We make the money pay the flood insurance. We make, you know, sacrifices. So anyhow, I'm glad that we had the flood insurance because thank God, you know, when it's happening, like we have flood insurance. We will be okay. We have enough money to hopefully build it back. And, you know, when the next flood happens, I hope we're still in this program because, you know, living there for 23 years, I'm going to tell you that the river's going to flood again. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
If y'all want this letter, though, yeah, you sure can.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Roxanne Spotako, is that right? Step forward, please. Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
3 minutes, please.
Okay. Again, I was here in November. for the NFIP program, which this board has talked about since October. All right, the minutes are on YouTube, anybody can watch this, since October, this has been discussed, has yet to be resolved. All right, it's an issue, because like Spring, I carry a mortgage, we have to have flood insurance. My next thing to bring up is tax abatements, property tax abatements for these individuals whose homes were substantially damaged or lost their homes. I understand the county and the state want to pay their property taxes for the next quarter or the next year. These homeowners need property tax abatements. They are paying property tax on some of them that don't even exist. And that should be brought to them and approved for each and every one of them. My next point is the floodplain administrator. I understand the county has COVID funds left over. That's going to be brought up tonight and it be used to hire a floodplain administrator. Instead of doing that, I'd like to suggest they take those excess COVID funds, disperse it to the homeowners that need to rebuild and help bring them into compliance for NFIP. Because like Frank said, this county can't afford to lose that funding. We really can't. Those are my 3 items. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Michelle Lane, please.
Thank you, guys. A little bit of back history. I've been a lifelong resident of Cocke County. I'm a teacher, and I am interim director for the Cocke County Long-Term Recovery Committee or Recovery Group. Guys, since September the 27th, I've been trying to help the people that have been affected by this disaster. Okay? Tomorrow makes 18 weeks since this disaster. 18 weeks. We have families that still don't even know anything about the NFIP or the Special Flood Hazard Zone. We have failed as a county to inform our citizens of what is going on, period. I'm not going to point any fingers because that doesn't matter. What we've got to do is we have got to start, guys, my son lost his home, okay? I have enough resources that I can take care of him and get him situated. These people, they lost everything, they're scared to death, they're looking for help, nobody will give them an answer, okay? I have these pages in this book, and I'm so frustrated right now. In this book, where I, as a volunteer, have told people that their home is in the Special Flood Hazard Zone. They hadn't even heard of it. And then I tried to explain to them the best that I could what that meant. And we've been waiting, and we've been waiting. Because we're not supposed to put a nail into a board until a substantial damage estimate is completed. Okay? We got to put our big girl and our big boy britches on. We've got to complete our substantial damage estimates. We've got to inform these homeowners. And we have got to get them on the road to recovery. Sticking our head in the sand is not helping anybody, let alone the people that I've been dealing with for 18 weeks. They are, and we have to, well, we don't have to. First of all, you guys didn't vote to get into the NFIP. We're in the NFIP. There's a reason we're in the NFIP. You don't have to vote to stay in it. You didn't vote to get in it. All 95 counties are in it. There's a reason why all 95 counties are in it, and that's because we need their help. Okay? I don't know who told you guys or whatever that said you guys are going to have to decide. You don't. That's already done. And I don't know what the zoning has to do with the NFIP, because to me it don't have anything to do with it. What we've got to do is, just like as a parent, sometimes it's not fun to parent. Sometimes it's not fun to, I've looked at people and said, guys, we don't need to do anything else. We're probably going to have to raise this house.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'd like to give you more time.
Okay.
Thank you. Scott Allen, please. So, Mr. Allen.
Scott Allen, I lived here about all my life. And, I'm gonna put some storage buildings up here on Cowley Highway. The people that live around it, D. Curtis, Rogers, I've got their names, there's 3 of them, lives close to around it. The rest of them don't live really around it, they live back in the neighborhood back there. And I've been working on this for about 2 years now. I went to the mayor's office there, about the 9th or 10th of 23, 1, 9, 10 or 23, out to his office. And, you know, they was just getting things done at that time, as far as trying to get, stuff permitted and everything. So everybody didn't know what we should do, what we could do, whatever. I was told to keep my receipts, and I got all my receipts, but I didn't name that business, because I was just cleaning out the trees right there. Like I said, I've been doing it 2 years, and I finally got concrete pads on it. But I did go around and get the people right beside of it, signatures saying storage buildings would be fine. Planning Commission had no problem with it, but, so I'm bringing it up again to try to get it passed.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Ellis.
much.
Thank you for coming.
I know you guys got a lot on you to
Yeah,
play.
thank you, sir. Thank you. John Necessary? Mr. Necessary, if you would, while you're coming to the microphone, would you tell me what you would like to speak on, please?
It's about the flooding, Del Rio.
NFIP? Okay, you're welcome, sir. Microphone. I'll allow you 3 minutes, and then we'll start the meeting.
My parents purchased their home in 1986. At that time, there was, you know, they were not in a flood zone or anything. And I know years after that, that it was adapted into the zone, but they never refinanced their home. They never had needed to have any title search done or anything to know that there's things that are different, you know, for their home and such and so forth, until now. And now we're all the way to the point where maybe when we get the elevation survey and we find out where we stand, they might get to keep their home. And we've got a whole shell right now. They're paying full, well, insurance through Farm Bureau. Right now, even though there's nothing in the home, there's not even floors or walls, but they will not pick you back up if you do not pay during this time of it being nothing there. It's the garbage. So they're right there, you know, they're very helpful. And with all of these other things, I know that everybody's trying to do the right thing and help one another, and church groups and individuals have been great. Federal government has been a joke. FEMA has been a total joke. They've promised, just like Santa Claus does, and we've got more from Santa than we did him. And it's just, it's sad. They'll be 72 years old here in a couple of months. And I'm scared to death they're gonna have to worry about a mortgage again. After everything that they've worked for their whole lives is there, dumped in the front yard. And thank God we had church groups there that come in and got all of the belongings there and ripped everything out to help them get that far. If not, they couldn't do it. She's diabetic and has mobility issues and getting shots in her eyes and things. My dad's had a heart attack, blood pressure. I'm scared to death all this stress is going to cause a stroke or heart attack, or I'm going to completely flip. You know, this is crazy, all these things that's going on. And I know that, I know you can say, I'm sorry, I'm not used to talking in front of people.
That's okay, sir.
But it not just them. I've got family, cousins up the road, many of them. They were faced with the same thing. And I don't know what to do. You know, I want to assure them, you know, hey, everything's going to be all right. And thank God, I know with God that's true, but it's the laws and regulations that I'm not sure about, because I don't understand all that stuff, and I don't know who's the right person to tell everybody those little details that can get you in trouble or get you, just things that can, mess somebody up. Like this, if my mom and dad are insurance poor, they have insurance on insurance. If they would've knew they were in flood zone, we'd have had flood insurance 2 times over.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up, and thank you for coming forward.
Cocke County Legislative Body is now in session. Vice Chair Rick Vassar presiding, Mayor Rob Mathis present.
Ms. Fowler, please, would you say the prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight. We pray that you would help us to make the correct decisions for our county and let our leaders stand up for us as well. This we ask in your name. Thank you and amen.
Ms. Blazer, please, would you?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me just say, I welcome each one of you here to this meeting tonight, and we're glad you're here, and we're glad that you're here to help us represent the county to the best of our abilities, and we just appreciate you being here. I'd like to thank the CLB for each one of you guys for representing your districts and doing it with the best interest at heart. I'd like to thank you. With that, we'll start our meeting tonight, and we'll start off with a roll call, please.
Andy Ford, Bill Miller, Gayla Blazer,
Here.
Jason McMahon, Norman Smith, Tracy Stepp, Jonathan Templin, Jeff Esslinger, Dan Bright, Wilma Ball,
Here.
Rick Vassar,
Yes.
David Verdow, Tim Lehman, Billy Hudson.
Yes, ma'am.
11 present, 3 absent.
You guys have had time to look over the minutes from the last meeting. Is there any questions? Could I get a motion to approve? Ms. Blazer, second Mr. Esslinger. All in favor, say aye, please. Aye. Any nays? Next on the agenda is the election and appointments of the notaries. Justin Anthony Cole, Brittany M. Holt, Candace Becker, Beth Blazer, Macy Reed, Sharon Shelton. Do I have a motion to pass? Okay, Mr. Miller. Second, Ms. Ball. All in favor say aye, please. Aye. Any nays? Thank you, guys. Okay, we'll move right along. In the matter of any committee reports, we have first on it would be the budget committee.
Okay, we have the quarterly report for approval. Is that not letter B? You don't have that one?
So we need a quarterly report first. Do you have it on your front page?
At the very bottom?
Oh, yeah, okay. Here we go. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
In the matter of accepting the following quarterly reports, Circuit Court, copies enclosed. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Ball, second by Mr. McMahon. Do we have to do a roll call on that?
Yes, sir.
All in favor say aye, please. Aye. Any nays? Okay, that. Okay, in the matter of accepting the county clerk, do I have a motion to accept? Mr. Verdahl, Ms. Blazer, all in favor say aye, please. Aye. Any nays? That passed. Okay, now we're on track.
Okay.
In the matter of any committee reports, first is the budget. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, the Budget Committee recommends the approval of the attached transfers and amendments and waives the reading of the same for the county.
Any questions, guys? No questions, so I have a motion to approve. Mr. McMahon, Mr. Esslinger, all in, do we do a roll call? Okay, we need a roll call on that one. Thank you.
Andy Ford, Bill Miller,
Yes.
Gayla Blazer,
Yes.
Jason McMahon,
Yes.
Norman Smith, Tracy Stepp,
Yes.
Jonathan Templin,
Yes.
Jeff Esslinger,
Yes.
Dan Bright,
Yes.
Wilma Ball,
Yes.
Rick Vassar,
Yes.
David Verda,
Yes.
Tim Lehman, Billy Hudson.
Yes, ma'am.
13 ayes, 3 absent. 11 ayes, 3 absent.
I'd like to note that there is no transfers and amendments for the school system. Mr. Chairman, the Budget Committee recommends the approval to sell the attached Sheriff's Department surplus.
Okay, guys, did you have time to look over that? Any questions? Do I have a motion to accept? Mr. Hudson, Mr. Esslinger. We need a roll call on that also.
Andy Ford, Bill Miller,
Yes.
Gayla Blazer,
Yes.
Jason McMahon,
Yes.
Norman Smith, Tracy Stepp,
Yes.
Jonathan Templin,
Yes.
Jeff Esslinger. Jeff Esslinger. Dan Bright,
Yes.
Wilma Ball,
Yes.
Rick Vassar,
Yes.
David Verda,
Yes.
Tim Lehman, Billy Hudson.
Yes, ma'am.
11 ayes, 3 absent.
Mr. Chairman, the only other thing I have is to note that an audit committee report was in your packet. That is just for your information. No action is needed.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to say something about these committees before we get into that, just as an opinion as the Vice Chairman of the Cocke County CLB. I would like to ask each one of you that is on these committees to please try to attend these meetings, these committee meetings, so we will have a full quorum at these, so we can bring it back to you guys to vote on anything. But I'm just asking you to please try to make these meetings. So the first one would be the sanitation. Do we have anything?
No, Mr. Chairman, no report.
Okay, thank you, sir. General committee, anything there? No. Okay. Public safety, we did have a public safety meeting, I being the chairman of the public safety. We had our first meeting on the contract to renew a contract or for the ambulance service. That would be priority ambulance service at this time. So we have another meeting set for 6:00 p.m. on February the 11th. If anyone would like to attend, we would be more than honored to have you. And that would be to look over our contract with the priority ambulance service. The next thing is the purchasing.
Nothing.
Nothing, okay. Do we have anything from the rafting committee?
Yes, we have another meeting coming up February 4th, 6 o'clock here at the circuit courtroom. All is welcome.
If that's at 6 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
That's February 4th, 6 p.m. That will be a rafting meeting for the rafting committee. And I know they are looking in, trying to get this rafting under control, and so we can move forward and maybe have a good year with that. In the matter of a report from the county mayor, Mr. Mathis, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just give you an update as to how the recovery efforts and any other items may be of interest to you. Our progress here in the county, first on the individual homeowner side, we're trying to help do everything we can across the full spectrum. Everybody from the individual homeowner to the business owner, farmer, and the county infrastructure as a whole, our business owners to include our rafting companies. So we've been in close contact with all those entities. I'll start with the individual homeowners. So far, thanks to the joint effort between the partnership, the city of Newport, and the Cocke County government, the Mountain Strong Fund has helped, how many, 70?
Yes.
73 homeowners, I think it was, 29 businesses, and with checks ranging anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 or $8,000 a piece. Almost $800,000 have been distributed so far to those folks to help them out. And that's going to be going up over $1 million shortly with the property tax payments that are going to go out to help folks on their behalf. So if the state does pass the bill to pay those property taxes, Senator Representative Faison has informed us that if your taxes are being paid by Mountain Strong, then you can use those funds that the state gives you to do whatever recovery as you see fit. So we're trying to do everything we can to help our citizens out as they recover. The next thing is on the debris removal. We have some folks here from Pond Curve Way. We had folks on the ground from the county, FEMA, We arranged that, called last week, got that set up. They hit the ground and went to all the areas, and some of the areas where there's some debris fields that could pose a possible danger, where the trees have washed up along the side of the banks, you know, for the next time there's a high water that they could go in the river and cause a problem. But the biggest thing was picking up along the private roads. So they hit the ground today, and that team was on the ground, so that process, we will get some answers shortly. Mr. Director, do you have anything about, I know you just walked in, but about what the team did on the ground today?
Yes, sir. The Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, the contractors that have already been picking up debris in the waterways and on the roadways, went out in the 6-vehicle convoy. We hit 8 different roads in the county that are considered state or county maintained roads that would be ways, meaning under the current guidelines, the homeowner would be responsible to remove that debris from their property, but we're appealing to FEMA to make an exception. So as soon as we compile the list of the names, addresses, phone numbers, and parcel numbers, we'll submit that list to Justin from FEMA, and they're going to do the submission for the exemption, and he seems optimistic that we could get something done for these folks.
That's good, and I want to make it known that if that doesn't go through, then we're just going to go to the next idea. I'm not giving up. I'm not leaving anybody behind. Everybody's going to come through this. We're all coming through this together. That's our commitment. So that's to the homeowners, to the business owners, over $250,000 been distributed to them. Again, the property taxes, and we have more funds on the way through the Mountain Strong, and there's going to be more help on the way. We're going to continue to solicit more funds. We're going to try to do all we can to help everybody until everybody is recovered together. So switching gears from that to the public infrastructure piece, we got some great news. The Knob Creek Bridge that was completely destroyed, we had one bridge destroyed in the county, and that was it. That was going to be roughly an $8 million, $7.88 million fix. We found out we're going to be able to, and we're really working heavily with the state and the federal folks, and we're getting some wins under our belt. This is one of them. It's not going to cost the county taxpayers a dime to get that bridge fixed. We were able to work in agreement with the state, but as far as a thing called state aid, that was a state aid bridge, and it was going to be cheaper for them, cheaper for us, and that worked out great. As you all may be aware, there's a special session. There's going to be an aid package going forth that will take our share from 12.5% of the roughly $150 million, $160 million of the damages. They'll take our share from 12.5% of that down to 5%, which is a differential of a little over $10 million to the taxpayer of the county. The one big issue that we have right now, and I'll just let y'all lay it all out for you. The one big issue that we have right now is operating funds. The sheriff's office we're having to run all of our inmates in other counties right now because our jail is, in my opinion, needs to be replaced, and that's another thing I'm going to talk to FEMA about, and it goes so slow, folks. And it goes slow to me, just wants to. We're moving this as quickly as we can. But with that said, we're having to transport those prisoners. The road department, with all the repairs and everything that they got going, their operating costs are through the roof. So that's why we're trying to find every nook and cranny with the state and federal governments to find money that's existing or money that's one place and moved someplace else, so that we can keep the cash flow going for the county and not putting that burden on the taxpayers. And so that, and also we're petitioning the federal government. I've been petitioning our 2 senators for months, and they're working with us, trying to help us to get a little bit of leeway on this NFIP program. Give us some opportunities to maybe have more leeway to grant these variances to folks. I don't have any feedback on that yet, but we're not giving up. If we hit one roadblock, we just turn and try to go around it. So that's what we're doing across the board on everything we do for this recovery. I want to say I'm proud of our CLB, proud of our staff. Everybody is working around the clock to try to get this done for you all and for all of us together. And and also on the river side, we are in talks with the North Carolina Department of Transportation to try to get that going quicker, to get those repairs done. We're trying to get the roads up the water fixed. And on the debris removal piece, one thing I forgot to mention going back to that is, you may have noticed a lot of heavy equipment in the rivers. Those folks have hit the ground or hit the water running in this case to get all that debris out of the rivers. So the plan is, our hope is to have a good rafting season this year, and maybe next year the best one ever. And we're working with our rafting companies to do that. So I just want to thank everybody for staying together, for continuing to pull the stay together as we did in the weeks after the flood. That unity is going to be important going forward. We can't fall apart now. We can't start picking each other apart. If we're standing back and throwing rocks at each other, or taking the 99 things that went great and finding the one thing that didn't and just harping on that thing, or making accusations, pointing fingers. All that does is distracts from our mission and hurts the people we're trying to help. It keeps the help from getting to them. So we got to pull together, get the help where it needs to go. And guess what? Yeah, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to throw an interception every once in a while, but we just got to regroup and make the next one touchdown. Only if we pull together can we do that. And I just want to just encourage everybody, because I'm seeing signs that we're starting to crack. We got to shore those cracks up. We got to pull together, or else we will fall apart. So I want to make sure, again, like I always say, stay positive, stay unified, and stay Cocke County strong. Thank you all, and you will have our commitment from everybody up there. We'll do everything we can to get our county not just back to where we were, but stronger than we've ever been. Thank you. Does you have any questions from the commission?
Any questions for the mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I do, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I do have one question. Have we gotten any information back from our jail system from, I know that we got some information back from a private insurance company that the county had reached out to.
Yes.
Could you give us a brief update? Because that is a very important issue that we're facing right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have, again, we're still in negotiations with FEMA to see exactly what we're going to be rebuilding, where, and what that's going to look like. But we have got two separate independent assessments of the damage to the jail and the annex. And both of them, the standard for FEMA is if it's more than 50%, if it's 50.1% damage, you don't repair it, you replace it. Both of those estimates that we have are, I think, in the mid-60s as far as the percent damage. So we just got to make sure, and we're like Cyber County Attorney, which is like we're going into court. We're building our case. We got a letter from the Tennessee Corrections Institute. We're getting estimates. We're doing everything we can to make as strong a case as possible to get what we need for our citizens, and also to make sure that the cost of what we need is not transferred to our citizens. It's really an uphill fight, but I mean, hey, that's the job. That's what we're here to do. So I hope that answers. Does anybody have anything before I?
Any questions on the jail or the annex or anything?
I'm glad to answer anything from the crowd. Yes, ma'am.
I lost my home, and it has been, and it's been, and I have received some funds from FEMA, and I have received runaround from FEMA, a very good runaround from FEMA. And I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. I don't know, with FEMA, they say, well, apply for this. So I applied for this, but I don't qualify. And so I'm wondering, well, I lost my house, so what does it take to qualify?
You're fighting a similar fight that we are with all.
Yeah,
it's the same cost
my
of work.
property is, the road is here, Cubic Road is here, the railroad tracks is right here. Here's my property. I lost a third of my land. Now, the river's in its banks, but I lost a third of my land, and my house, my house was raised. I had an architect that actually came out and gave me a plan on the foundation that I needed to build to survive this flood. I survived the flood that happened in 2018, no problems whatsoever. This flood that just happened, if this is a 1,000-year flood, and it's going to be another 1,000 years before we experience this kind of devastation, then why are we basing our criteria on something that will not happen in our lifetime or our children's lifetime?
Before we leave tonight, if you don't mind, can I have your name and contact?
I want information on these meetings. We have had to go to North Carolina because my husband is ill, and I can't do anything here, and I get no information.
If I get your contact information, I will get somebody from FEMA, and we'll get you in touch with somebody to connect your questions.
Could we consider Newport the city as a floodplain?
You'd have to talk to the, I don't know the name.
You would reach out to the floodplain coordinator. And as of right now, the floodplain coordinator is in the property assessor's office here at Cocke County Courthouse. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your questions. In the matter,
Mr. Chairman?
oh, I'm sorry.
I
Any
need to
questions?
ask the sheriff a question.
Mr. Sheriff?
Can you update us on what's going on with the inmates where you're all at right now?
Kind of like what he was discussing about the transportation of inmates, which has become a huge burden, is having to transport inmates from here to Jefferson County back here. Courts, the overall process, obviously they have to come to court, and they have to go back. And the thing we're getting into now is the overpopulation of the workhouse is a 52-bed facility, and we're housing up to 98 inmates. Now, when we had the annex in existence over here, TCI decertified us for that same reason and structure. Now, we have the fire marshal that came in to the Jefferson County facility, and we found out February the 10th whether that facility is going to be there or it's not. So we have no idea what's going on with that, other than we know we've got a couple of reports from them. TCI's come in, they've done their first mock inspection. Obviously, overcrowdedness has become a big issue. We're running about 30 female inmates in, I guess, what you call an 8-pod facility. So we've had to transport all of our female inmates to the upstairs, which is starting to become a problem because that's the intake center. So now we're taking inmates to the workhouse, and when they get brought in here, we got 4 beds upstairs in the house, 2 males and 2 females in another pod, but that's all we can house upstairs right now. It's currently 4 or 5. There's a plumbing issue in the Jefferson County workhouse that we're still waiting on quotes. One guy came in and said it cost $700,000 to fix it, because the plumbing that's under the existing facility is so old and so out of date, there's no way to replace that. And obviously, we don't have $700,000 to fix a building we don't own. And that's going to be about near impossible. My biggest concern is the fire marshal. State fire marshal has a lot of power, and if he walks in on February the 10th and says jail's closed down, we're out. And that's a big issue. We are in conversation with 5 other counties and 5 other sheriffs trying to transport our inmates to their facility by February the 10th, if that is the case. We got on the phone today and we reached out for 28 inmates to be transferred. The only problem with that is when I transfer 28 and 30 and 40 inmates to Loudoun County, and then we have court on Monday, then I'm going to have start people running on Sunday to go pick up inmates and bring them somewhere and hold them until we can go to court. So it's becoming to be a big issue, and that's going to be tough. And it's going to affect the court system too, because honestly, if I have to go pick them up on Sunday, I have nowhere to put them. So it's going to be Monday morning at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning driving to Loudoun County, then have to drive all the way back to Cocke County, and they'll have to sit in the courtroom until their case is heard, because we have no room upstairs, nor if that facility does get shut down. But we was told if the facility doesn't get shut down, we can only hold up to 52 inmates in that facility. You can't hold 80, you can't hold 60, it's 52 inmates. And we hope that's the case, because we can transport 40 somewhere else. But it does affect us, it affects the court system, because they have their plans they have to do every day. And we've all got Supreme Court rules, we've all got federal and state laws and guidelines and civil rights that we have to follow. And that's something it's tough, especially whenever you got, your employees, we've got the amount of employees we've had. We're having to increase that just to meet the needs. And they can tell you, it's working, but it's still a slow process because of what we're having to do. But February 10th is going to be a big day for the jail. Just, I don't know how else to explain it. It's not good. I've read the report. And it's not our fault on that part, because they give us a place to rent, and that's where we're at. I'm glad they have it, because where would we be if we didn't? But, the area sheriffs, we're going to lose money on that, because when we start transferring inmates to other counties, our board bill is going to start to reduce, and that's going to affect us. So it's just, it's a bad time, Something probably should have been done a long time ago, but we just sit over there and wait until it finally broke. But there's nothing, there's no control on that. TCI is pretty hard.
What's our transportation cost will come out right now? Do I need to ask?
That's going to be high. Between employees, having add additional employees, fuel costs, vehicle purchases to get transport to and from. We're running 5 to 7 transport officers a day. And that's, you know, we used to run that too. And then you're having to hire additional court security, you're having to hire additional jailers. I mean, it's an overwhelming project, you know, it's gonna be tough. But I mean, area counties are very tremendous. I mean, I got sheriffs from Memphis it's called, you know, so we have inmates. I can't do a 24-hour round trip with one inmate. I appreciate it, but I can't do it.
Ms. Blazer, do you have a question for the
No,
sheriff?
I needed to ask the mayor something.
Okay, I'll allow that. Mayor?
Okay. In one of our last meetings, it was said that we had 70 people in our county to apply for FEMA. I'd like to know if that's still at that number or has it went up? And also, it was said that we had 129 properties, people with properties with loans on them that was covered under the NFIP. That was, I think, our last one or the one before that in that meeting. So my question is, how many people do we still have in our county probably classified as homeless? And do we have any living in tents at this time?
The numbers that we've had from FEMA, the last update that I had was region-wide for the whole Helene affected area. They said there were, I think, in the neighborhood of estimation of 50 people across the whole width and breadth of it. We have no reports of anybody that is without shelter or living in tents in Cocke County. We have the sheriff has his folks continued. All of our county resources, when they're out, they are looking for signs of anybody that's not has shelter or does not have shelter or living in tents. And also, we're putting out the call. Of course, you know, that's something that can change on any given day. So, if anybody knows of anybody that has
So
that
you're
issue,
saying that there's only 50 people region-wide that has applied for FEMA stuff?
no, that's
That's
people
what
living.
I-
That's people living in
that was
tents.
my
You asked
question.
me your intents. So there are 50 people region-wide that are in tents. Now, as far as the numbers,
Okay.
yeah. So as far as people like that are living in tents without hard shelter over their heads,
Right.
that was their estimate. I don't think, now, we have not really had reports
We
of
don't have
anybody
any.
here in Cocke County.
Okay, but, so how many do we have classified as homeless though, do you know? I mean, there would be some homeless, I think is classified maybe moving in with a friend or whatever, is that not correct? Or am I wrong? I know as far as school systems.
That's a moving target, because we have the calls from FEMA, and they talk about a lot of that. I can tell you right now, Cocke County, the direct housing people who have applied is 120. They are considered for a FEMA-provided unit, 21. People who are out of that, people who are homeowners is 13. People who are renters is 8. And the total number of approvals, now these numbers are from a few days ago, so that changes day by day,
Right.
was 21. And I can forward this to you, Commissioner, so you don't have to.
So the thing is, so we still only have 70 that have applied for FEMA relief here in our county, or has that number went up?
As far as the applications, I would have to go through my records to find
I
exactly.
mean, I
we
think
get
that was
updates
the
on
last,
that.
we heard Mason, do y'all know?
Can I speak to that for a second? I'm the person that gave you the 70 figure, and that wasn't how many people have applied in general. That was how many people that had applied that FEMA thought would be substantially damaged.
Okay,
So I think that was a miscommunication
Yeah,
there.
the numbers I was giving you was for FEMA 8.
okay, and then the 129 properties, I think somebody said that was here from the bank that night, that you gave us this.
I think that was the state floodplain administrator. I think he's the one.
And he said that there was 109 properties with loans, right, that falls under the national.
They would lose their
Okay.
insurance, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure that we knew what I was talking about.
You do.
Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions for the mayor or the sheriff? Mr. Price, sir.
How many of those people that FEMA's talking about, did they supply shelter to? How many did the county supply shelter to? If it hadn't been for the churches, the volunteers, and volunteer funds, you know how many people we would have dead from exposure? I bought tents out of my own pocket. And all the people helping like her, and her. It's a disgrace. These people have fell through the cracks. They're getting no help. I spent my time yesterday evening crawling under a trailer fixing gas leaks. How many people have I seen out helping these people? One. Sheriff C.J. Bob. That's the only county official I've seen out.
Commissioner, who do you think those people are working with, sir? I've had about enough of you.
Well, I had about enough of you.
Oh, it's obvious.
That's good, guys. Calm down.
I just want to say this. Working with the long-term recovery group, we've been supporting them. We've been supporting Mountain Strong. We've been soliciting funds. Where do you think the $2 million that came into that, who went out and got that money that came in to help these people who was trying to beat down the doors for this? Who do you think's been calling trying to get the money from the state to help our people out? Sir, you have not called my office once and asked about anything of how you can help and be a part of this. You've sat back and thrown rocks. You're exactly what I was talking about earlier, and I'm sick of it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would like to thank the people. I thank all of you guys out there. I don't point my finger at each one of you and say thank you for helping, because I know I work every day out in this community, and I have for 66 years. I've been on this earth. And I'm born and raised here just like a lot of you. And a lot of you guys have helped. And the ones that couldn't help, you couldn't help. There's no way, because you were probably the victim. And you was asking for help. And I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank you all. I want to thank our great community. I want to thank these CLB members. I want to thank this mayor's administration. Right now is not the time to point fingers. Right now is the time to reunite. Come together. Let's work together. And let's don't give up. The main thing, do not give up. If you need support, reach out. Somebody's always there to support you. And I want to thank you. In the matter of a report from the county attorney, I would like to welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My report's going to seem pretty bland for what has occurred thus far today. It's been an eventful 30 days being your county attorney. I will say that I have enjoyed it. I like hard work, and I like dealing with each of you. I talked to many county commissioners over the last month, many office holders, many employees, fielded questions from many. Had a couple of occasions to talk with Sheriff Ball about a matter. So we have been addressing county issues for the last 30 days. We've reviewed a number of contracts. We've revised a number of them. There's a certain way that I do contracts, and it's to your benefit. And we put in provisions that protect us. We are usually the ones with the leverage, and so we use that to our benefit. I've researched the floodplain administrator issue that we'll probably get into in here in just a few minutes. And I do have an opinion about that. We also have a lawsuit, as we know, and we'll talk about that in executive session. But there's been activity in that, and I think it's positive. And so that's my report. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can.
Any questions for the county attorney?
We have an executive session tonight.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'll do that at the end if it's okay with you guys when the meeting is pretty well, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you, sir. In the matter of a report from any county commissioners, you guys have anything tonight? No? Okay. In the matter of a report from the Cocke County Partnership, Mr. Brady, welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. A couple of things. You have my report in front of you, but also I do want to mention a couple points that are not in the report. First of all, our partnership board has been reformatted, reconstituted, so we're under new leadership from a board standpoint and also from a personnel standpoint. Our industrial development board has been reformatted as well, and they are meeting regularly now and working hard. I do want to report on a couple other things. We were able to locate a small startup company that we were able to convince them to choose Newport, Cocke County. and we had a news conference on Friday, December the 20th. So they located here. It's only 10 employees right now, but they're hoping to grow and there's another company that's interested in co-locating with them, and they're gonna take some space inside the former ConAgra building. So that's a positive. As was alluded to, the partnership, the county mayor asked the partnership to set up a fund to help with relief funds, and we have distributed $269,000 to small businesses and $563,000 to individuals affected. Now, we're going to have a couple people missed out on some applications, so we have some more funds coming out. And then also, I'm trying to set up a meeting with the rafting owners because I think a couple of those businesses missed out or did not submit applications. So we're gonna go up and meet with them. Our subcommittee chair and I are going to schedule a meeting with the rafting companies and go up and meet with them and hopefully distribute some funds because that is a large industry in our county. It brings in a lot of funds. It's an economic driver to Cocke County. In addition, we've reached out to Commissioner of Tourism, Mark Ezell, and he's going to come in, and he and I and our staff are going to go visit with the rafting company. If you would mark your calendar for Friday, February the 28th. And Mr. Miller, you're chair of that committee, and I will let you know and with the details, but if you see me afterwards, we'll get together on that. So we'll go up there on that. The county mayor and I have had several meetings with the Commissioner of Economic Community Development. We've asked him to waive some matching funds, and really the credit on this belongs to the county mayor because he was able to save the county over $700,000 that we didn't have to put up in matching funds. So all credit to Mayor Mathis on that. Another issue is we're working on the sewer line in the Smoky Mountain Innovation Park. I'm also talking to a company there. We've been in conversations with them, but they wanted to wait and see when we were going to be able to get a sewer line extended. Also, Commissioner Hudson, you asked me a question about some property that the county owned, so I'm ready to meet with you and provide that information to you and all your fellow county commissioners. I searched through the files, found an appraisal on it, and then also we pulled up the maps on it and done an evaluation of the utilities in the area. We've got a 4-inch sewer line going out there, but we probably need that down the road. And also we met with the developer the other day about some potential investment at exit 432. So that's my report. And then also we will be meeting with Commissioner of Economic and Community Development again. And also some of you may have noticed some grading is going on out there at the Smoky Mountain Innovation Park. We want to get that pad ready and try to convince some people to make an investment in Cocke County. So thank you for your service. The partnership funds that goes towards flood relief, I want to acknowledge that our partnership covers the expenses of the checks and any administration. So that means every penny coming in, every penny goes out. And that's something that I feel strongly about, and that's the way we're going to operate. And hopefully you agree with me on that. And so far we've been able to help a lot of people. We are in phase 2 of this. We expect that there will be additional funds coming in. And also we're going to have some more conversations and with some people who we feel like want to invest some more in Cocke County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for, okay, Mr. McMahon?
Yeah, I have a question about the innovation park and sewer.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that obviously it needs to be extended to the wastewater plant.
Yes, sir.
But also on your report, it said proposals and responses were due January 13th.
Yes, sir.
Today's the 29th. Do you have any update?
Yes, we do. Those ran through East Tennessee Development District. East Tennessee Development District takes those responses out. We did have a firm respond to that, and that was Robert Campbell and Associates, which is good news because they're already familiar with the park, and they're already started work on it where you have signed a contract with them. And we've also Been working with, and again, Mayor Mathis started that conversation with state officials to get funding for that project. So we have the funds in place and they've started work on it. Of course, we think time you do design and engineering, it's probably gonna be about 3 or 4 months or maybe longer, and then we look at construction. And then we have to go out and talk to property owners and approach them about, can we have an easement here for a sewer line? So there's gonna be a little bit more work on that, we're probably a year out, but you can't have an industrial park without a sewer line in there to serve the tenants of that park. Thank you for that question.
What about the electrical needs down there? Isn't there gonna have to be a substation built?
I don't know about a substation, but certainly 3-phase power is gonna have to be instituted. We've also had a conversation with an engineering firm to come in and say, okay, we've applied for another grant to finish off the utilities in there. So I'm not sure if we're gonna have to have a substation or not, but we're looking into it. And then also making sure our water line is large enough. So we're kinda gonna do a utilities evaluation. It's gotta have lights. Eventually, the road's gonna have to be paved. County Commission's requirement, your requirement was that it be paved to TDOT standards. But I want you to know up front, we're gonna push that to the very end so that when all those things get constructed in there, the trucks aren't tearing up the road, and then we gotta come back in and do it again. So we're kinda gonna bump that out to the very last thing that we can do is pave the rest of the remaining roads. And hopefully you think that's being a good steward of our tax dollars.
Any more questions? I do have a question. I would like to know if the Planning Commission has approved our industrial park.
Yes, sir, they have. I'm here before the the Planning Commission, and they submitted I submitted a final plat. They approved that with the agreement that the roads would be paved to TDOT standards. I heard them loud and clear on that, but they have approved the final plat. Yes, sir.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions for Mr. President? Thank you, Mr. President. In the matter of a report from Priority Ambulance Service, do we have a representative here? No. In the matter of a report from Keep Cocke County Beautiful, do we have a representative that would like to speak on their behalf? Okay, we'll move right along. In the matter of a report from Cocke County Corrections Partnership Committee, that's Mayor Mathis.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Thank you, sir. Okay, we're to the new business. In the matter of a what's the proper word? Moratorium on all zoning regulations in flood-affected areas for a period of not less than 5 years. I think that was Mr. Bright. Under the proposal, all rules and regulations except state septic and electric would be removed so they do not interfere with landowners repairing or replacing homes on their property. After this expires, it shall be extended or reinstated by the referendum on election ballot. Also, any restoration work will be grandfathered as before zoning. Before we get into this too much, I would like for Mr. Bright to speak on it. Then I would like to reach out to the county attorney, if I may, for a recommendation on this, please. Mr. Bright, sir.
I want to withdraw this for the next meeting, or table it till the next meeting. There's some changes I'd like to make to it. But I would like to suspend the rules. I've had several people ask me to do this. Suspend the rules and make a motion that we have the county attorney pen a letter to President Trump and give us the same treatment he gave North Carolina in suspending some of these rules, speeding this thing up, giving us more money to help these people we've got out here in campers and stuff and get them in decent shelters.
Okay. With
So
that
I'd
being,
like to suspend the rules if possible.
okay, well, before I suspend the rules, may I ask the county attorney to speak on it?
Yes.
So he can give us some, would he be willing to do so, Mr. Bowden? I don't know if he would or not, that's why I would like to hear from him and the rest of the CLB, please.
Well, so this came to me a couple of days ago, and I would like to spend, I appreciate the fact that the gentleman wishes to withdraw it for tonight or to table it. Give us some more time to think about it. When I think about it, as your county attorney, I think there are steps that we shouldn't miss. I think we ought to go back to a planning commission, a BZA level, and there be discussions there about any amendment that might need to be made to the zoning resolution. I mean, obviously, this body can change the zoning resolution. You can rescind it if you wish. But I think, legally speaking, I think we need to follow certain steps, and I don't think we're prepared to follow those steps yet. I think we need to go about amending, but there needs to be a process. There probably needs to be public meetings regarding that as well before we get to this point for a moratorium.
So your recommendation, sir, is to stay within the guidelines?
Stay within the guidelines until it's been considered by at least BZA.
Okay.
For an amendment. There ought to be a process by which BZA would consider an amendment. You know, the argument could be made that this is even a situation that requires, and you folks may not like this, but this may be a situation that requires even more regulation and more permitting. I am concerned that the state of California, who just had their wildfires, and they decided to basically suspend the permitting. If the property happened to be damaged by the fires, if the properties here that underlie the homes that were washed away happen to be damaged by the floods, then if you suspend the rules and folks are allowed to build their homes on property that has issues, maybe a lot more severe than they had before. We don't know when the next flood is going to come either. But I'm concerned that their safety might be in peril. That's why we have zoning. I haven't heard of any of the hurricanes that have come through Florida. I haven't heard of all of the authorities in Florida suspending their zoning regulations. They don't do that. And there's a reason that they don't do that, and it's public safety. They want everyone to be safe in their homes for when that next flood comes. It might be 100 years, it might be 1,000 years, but it might be 6 months from now. We don't know when that next one's going to be. So I think we ought to proceed cautiously, but I think there needs to be more of a public hearing, and I think BZA ought to consider it. There need to be some strict guidelines on where you're going to draw the lines, if you're going to draw lines. If you just said, we want to place a moratorium on all the properties along the river, well, how is that defined? What are those properties? How far does that zone go? So all of those details need to be worked out before we go through, I think, before we go through a report. That's just my initial thoughts on it. But I do want to spend a little bit more time researching it, and there are certain requirements for moratoriums as well. But giving us another month to look at that, I think, is in all of our best interest. So I appreciate it.
One more thing before you sit down. You had asked to suspend the rules. I don't think that we really need to suspend the rules for you to ask the county attorney to send a letter, do we? Okay, I wouldn't think so, Mr. Bright, but I do want to honor your question to the county attorney. If you would like to ask him to do that, I'm for that.
Well, I would like for him to do that, and I'd like for it to be where all of us can sign it.
And so the $1,000 question is, what do you want me to put in the letter?
Asking him to give us the same treatment he gave North Carolina. Suspend some of these rules that'll speed process up, not to endanger anybody.
Right.
But to speed this up, give us money to help these people get back in their homes.
I'm glad to draft a letter, and I'll be glad to run it by you.
Can't hurt.
And we'll need to talk about it one-on-one, or in an executive session. I can address it with you there.
I think that'll be fine.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Bright? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a point of
You're more
clarification?
than welcome, sir.
Just make a point of clarification that there, I think we may be looking for problems where there are none. Actually, Shelton, our building commissioner who handles all the zoning permits and applications, has anyone, just yes or no, has anyone been delayed, denied, or otherwise hampered from rebuilding, replacing, or repairing any properties due to any zoning regulation in your office?
Not at all.
Thank you, ma'am.
So the zoning has not been any type of issue? I mean, it is working the way that y'all have it?
Nobody, it's been a roadblock to no one.
Okay.
There's a couple, I'll get their names tomorrow.
Are you talking
Stop work.
NFI, this is NFIP, not zoning. I think you're getting those two confused.
Did you have something else, Mr. Bright? I'm sorry.
No.
Did you have, okay, Mr. Burdick?
I just got a question. What, maybe I'm not connected. What does zoning and restoring these properties have to do with working together?
Nothing.
No, sir.
Zero.
Not that I know of.
Maybe I'm smart enough out.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hudson.
I said the rules and regulations are coming from the NFIP.
That is correct. We are in that association. The NFIP is, it's just like it was stated earlier, we're in it, so we have to abide by their.
I just want to clear up that fake news, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. That's fine.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Mr.
make one
Chairman.
more statement?
Hold on just a minute, Ms. Blazer.
Well, I just wanted you to remember, you had a motion on the table to table this till next week. We need to vote on that motion.
Right, okay. You are correct.
I just want to make sure.
So, do I have a motion to table, this new business?
He already did.
So you already did, so do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Blazer, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nays? So that passed, so it will be tabled till next month, or? Okay. In the matter of reconsidering the following zoning request, Scott Allen, Smoky Lane map, 083, C is in Charlie group, C partial, 001, 00, R1 to C2 for mini storage units. I know that this came up before, and I'm not sure that it was very clear for the CLB, but we would like to get it clear enough till we can all be on the same page with this gentleman here. At this time, I would like to bring Mr. Morgan from the Planning Commission, because Mr. Morgan had asked us to bring it back to the Planning Commission and let them reconsider this. And I would like to hear from Mr. Morgan to see what the Cocke County Planning Commission decided about Mr. Allen's property. Mr. Morgan, sir. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. We had two things last month that we were, in December, that we recommended, and I asked y'all to pause the one on the Highway 160.
Okay.
And I think I really confused the situation about Mr. Allen.
That's okay, sir.
We looked at Mr. Allen's, and we've looked at it kind of again, and he's on the state highway, and his property is surrounded by county roads. He was probably kind of in the process before zoning, clearing brush and what have you, and it's been an ongoing thing. It looks like the state highway and the county roads. He had a unanimous favorable vote from the
So it
planning.
was unanimous vote through the planning commission for Mr. Allen's property to be approved.
That's right.
Any questions for Mr. Morgan in the planning commission? Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for being here, and thank you for the good job that you do for the county people. Therefore, do I have a motion to accept Jonathan Templin, Mr. Esslinger? All in favor, say aye. No, we've got to, I'm sorry, we're going to have to do a roll call on this. I'm sorry. Thank you, guys.
Andy Ford, Bill Miller,
Yes.
Gayla Blazer,
Yes.
Jason McMahon,
Yes.
Norman Smith, Tracy Stepp,
Yes.
Jonathan Templin,
Yes.
Jeff Essinger,
Yes.
Dan Bright,
Yes.
Wilma Ball,
Yes.
Rick Vassar,
Yes.
David Verdoff,
Yes.
Tim Lehman, Billy Hudson.
Yes, ma'am.
11 ayes, 3 ayes.
That passed unanimous. Thank you, guys. In the matter of Macy Reed addressing the board regarding her position as flood plan coordinator, and her copy is enclosed, and I'm sure you guys have got to go over, had time to go over that. Ms. Reed, welcome to the CLB meeting.
I would like to start by briefly speaking on the bill that the mayor brought up earlier and give you some good news. The bill has passed both houses, so that gives a tax refund or a refund in the amount of taxes owed for 2024 to all of the people that were affected by the flood, along with an additional 30%, and that has been passed, so good news there. Second, I would like to move into apologizing to you all and to you all as well for the way I presented things at the last meeting. I went back and watched that meeting several times and cringed watching myself present that. So I apologize. I did not come across the way I intended to come across, and I've spoken with you, a couple of you since, and explained to you that I feel like I failed you when I gave you an emotional explanation, but I had good intent behind it. The intent was to give you the explanation that our community was going to call you with when we requested a, widowed woman that had raised her children in a home to raise her house and she couldn't afford it. That was what I was trying to express to you all. Unfortunately, I think in the process of that, I expressed that I was throwing my hands up and telling you all that I was putting this in your court and leaving it for you to deal with and, tough, deal with it the best you can. And that was never my intention. It's always been my intentions to work together and create a solution that solves this for all of us, and I hope that we can still do that. And again, I apologize.
Apology accepted.
Thank you, sir. I understand your aggravation with me that night, so I'm sorry. As I have some updates for you, I'd like to start there. As floodplain administrator, my office and I have done what I intended to tell you that night I would do, and that is to keep us compliant until a solution is found for this. I hope that solution is found quickly because it is hindering me from doing the job that I'm elected to do as property assessor. But I have hired the 1206 employees. We hired 6. 2 of them left us before they started because they found permanent jobs instead of temporary jobs. So we've been working with a team of 4. I have trained all 4 of those employees. I've been out in the field with them and trained them how to do the substantial damage estimates. I've trained them how to see the house and the structure and things that make up that structure. I've created a workload for them daily to go out and field review. I've reviewed the work that they've submitted daily. The 2 teams of 1206 employees at this point have reviewed all of the structures in a special flood hazard area that I'm aware of that was damaged by Helene. So we are no longer waiting on those. That's good news for everybody here that's been waiting. I have trained a 1206 employee to enter those into the system as well. She has worked diligently to make sure all those were entered before this meeting this evening. We have continued to issue the development permits for repairs, rebuilds, and new construction, whether that be in a special flood hazard area or outside of a special flood hazard area, and I would like to touch on that more in a minute.
I've communicated with FEMA and TEMA to make sure that we're staying compliant in this situation that we're in while we're waiting on some decisions to be made. And I've done everything that I can think of to make sure that we have a smooth transition if you all make the decision to move this to the floodplain administrator or a different office, all the way down to refiguring the tracking method for this, because during Helene, we've realized that the tracking method that has been used in the past does not work very efficiently. We've done 216 substantial damage estimate reviews. 52 of those structures were totally destroyed. 39 of those structures are considered substantially damaged but still standing. When we spoke earlier, Ms. Blazer, about the substantial damage properties from FEMA, those two figures together would create that. Of course, totally destroyed is also substantially damaged. I have issued one stop work order, which I'm thinking maybe the one you were talking about earlier, I'm not sure. A couple of gentlemen own that house, it's on River Chase. I would like to address some concerns that have been talked about on social media or brought to my attention at the office. I keep hearing people say that they're going to have to tear everything out that they worked so hard on for the last several months and start from scratch because they're in the floodplain and we consider them substantially damaged, and that's not the case. While it may be incredibly inconvenient, you may have to elevate your structure. Nobody's going to ask you to undo the work that you've already done. That work is supposed to be permitted, but I can permit, or the floodplain administrator can permit that and say that the work already done is permitted. I spoke with NFIP specifically about that. So you may have to elevate, you may have to put in flood vents, but we're not going to ask you to tear out the sheetrock that you've already replaced in your home. Just because the structure is 50% damaged does not automatically mean it has to be elevated. Just because it's in the floodplain doesn't automatically mean it has to be elevated. We've seen several elevation certificates come through that state that the home is good as standing on elevation, but they need to put in flood vents. So several of them are already elevated high enough just from the crawl space that they already have. I would also like to point out in the meeting for the public that if you have flood insurance, you may also have a coverage called increased cost compliance coverage, ICC coverage, through your flood insurance that will cover the increased cost for you to be compliant. So whether that be flood venting or whether that be elevating your structure, they will cover that if you have that insurance. Something else that's been brought to my attention, the people that have had these substantial damage estimates done may be under the impression that the people in the field have the determination while they're in the field, and they do not. This may be irrelevant if some wild card properties don't pop up that we haven't picked up, but it is important that the people at your house at that time do not know the final determination. They bring their review back, all of that information is put into the tool that's provided by FEMA, and that tool calculates the total percent damaged. I would also like to bring to your attention, because one of the commissioners brought this up to me, we didn't begin trying to relocate this position just after the flood happened. We were in the process of trying to relocate this position before the flood. The mayor, myself, and Ashley Shelton had talked on multiple occasions about putting it in the zoning department after you all voted in zoning for the county. However, I will stop there and say, after the flood, we realized that this is entirely too much workload to add to the workload that Ashley Shelton already has. So we remained in the process and procedure that we were following before the flood, but it was a problem before the flood. Sorry. Commissioner Templin asked me at the last meeting if I had someone in mind for the position, and I did not at the time. That's something else that I owe you an apology for. I brought you a problem without a solution. I would like to recommend, as I stated in my letter of resignation, that you appoint Adam Gann as the floodplain administrator as a full-time position. Something that brings up is the cost of his salary. We had discussed or toyed around with the idea of paying him out of the funds that were reallocated to cover Helene expenses, unexpected Helene expenses, but I would also like to point out that in tax year 2024, based off of new construction and construction that hadn't been picked up by previous field teams, we added $840,254.77 to the tax roll. Not in appraisal, not in assessment, in actual tax dollars. And I have the assessment summaries to back that if you'd like to see those. The county's growing like crazy, very rapidly every day. I think the report that the mayor gave previously stated an average of 400 homes a year, if I remember correctly. We've issued 426 development permits in 2024, so those two numbers coincide together. All of those new constructions are going to bring in new tax revenue to the county. But if we can't focus our sole attention on the duties of the assessor's office with the field team, then there's going to be new construction that does not get picked up. My team, from a standpoint of the property assessor, is tasked with reviewing the quarter of the county annually, the entire county every 5 years, and picking up all new construction as it's built each year. As a floodplain administrator, the field team is required to review all 3 rivers, all of the creeks that create floodplains or floodways, and on a regular basis. And I'm not advocating for building codes here, so please don't misunderstand me, but the fact that Cocke County does not have building codes makes it much harder to monitor the floodplain here than it is in counties that have building codes. Because right now, the only checks and balances that we have for this to make people aware that they need to come in for a permit is utilities. We issue a permit, utilities will issue power. If we don't issue a permit, utilities doesn't issue power. And that works great for new construction. However, there's additions to houses. In the floodplain, those have to be approved. There are houses or trailers that are moved out and replaced with a new trailer that's supposed to be permitted but doesn't get permitted because we don't have codes, and Newport Utilities doesn't require a permit from us for that. There are so many scenarios that make this more complicated here than it is in counties that have those things, which is why I feel like you should put this into a position that can focus on that and keep us compliant moving forward. The things that fall under the duties of assessor in my mind after a disaster like this include reviewing all of the properties that were damaged, whether they're in a floodplain or not. And our review process looks completely different than the NFIP program process. We reviewed over 1,000 properties on a property assessor standpoint that were touched or damaged by Helene. We had to compile all of that to get it to Representative Faison and the Comptroller's office for this bill that just passed through legislation. We should be working with Mountain Ways and the partnership and Michelle to get them the data that they need. We should be working on countywide reappraisal that we are state required and state mandated to have done by a certain deadline. We should be dealing with the new construction that's coming into the county that can add new tax revenue and help carry the burden of the taxpayers that are already paying on the construction that they own. All of those things have been delayed because of the NFIP program being in my office. I'm not trying to tell you that we can't do it, but we can't do both. And that's what I should have expressed to you in the first meeting. So I have done everything in my power to organize this and set this up and complete the field reviews and get them keyed into the system and create a smooth transition opportunity for you all, and now I request that we make that smooth transition happen. I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Reed?
I always have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
The person that you recommended or whoever goes into that position, my question would be this. It's just how I think, I mean, it's not, I will do that. So, first of all, where would that position be? Who would that person answer to? And, if I were looking at that, to me, that position or that person would be somewhere, maybe not within that office, but that sole job. Because when we get people in, and I know there's a whole little book about like this for the National Flood Plan, and we're not getting that information out. So these people that come in for permits, when you say there's a permit, they need to know that they are in that floodplain, and they need to know and have that packet. I know in the past, it's never got to those people. They've never had that packet. They never known what even they're responsible for, or if that happens, you know, I'm just trying to be proactive with that. They need that piece of paper or that booklet about the National Flood Plan.
I don't disagree with you. We have been giving out permits that state whether they're in a floodplain or not, and explaining if they are, they have to get an elevation certificate before they build.
But a lot of people hear that, it goes in one ear and out the other. If you have a piece of paper, you have something to say, we gave you this, you put a little bit of responsibility on people that are building in that area. I mean, they're not without responsibility, and believe me, I've lived in the floodplain, lived in Del Rio, right on the river. I understand how bad it is. As a teenager, a girl, I watched it flood. It was horrible. Watched the whole trailers go down the river. So I understand living in that. But I never knew that. My parents never heard anything about that. So I'm just saying, we have to be better at getting information to people when they come in for a permit. So if I were looking at it, I would say, make his office in there with you, because he would be able to go out and see. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
That's just where my head goes. But we have got to get that information out. That packet needs to be to everybody, not just tell them, because, I mean, sometimes you hear what you want to hear. I mean, most all of us only hear what we want to hear, 9 times out of 10. So if it's written down, they have a book, sit down and look at it a little bit. You know, you do have a little bit of responsibility for your life. Every one of us do. So that's what I'm asking. I mean, I think it would be a good idea maybe to be in that office, to be.
If, Ms. Blazer, if you remember, and the CLB, if you remember, and Ms. Reed, we had a special call meeting, and it was brought up, and it was, I don't remember if we quite voted on it, but we all agreed on it, that we have a workshop on this subject before we make a decision. Do you all remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so with her giving the information, is that the proper information, Mr. Mayor, may I ask, that we're waiting on to have the special workshop before we make the decision on the floodplain coordinator?
My understanding is they're just waiting on you to finish all the assessments. And I think if that's what's done.
Are those complete, Ms. Reed? So we can set up the workshop and then we can answer and then, I'm sorry?
She didn't finish. She
Oh,
got
I'm
something else to say.
I was just gonna say, I won't promise that there won't be a straggler come through that still needs one done, but yes, we believe we're done.
Okay. So with that being said, I'm sure that we can go ahead and set a date for the workshop, and we can have a full discussion on this and come to a decision on what we want to do as the county to work with the floodplain. Is that okay with you, Ms. Reed?
Yes, I would prefer that workshop be very soon, but yes.
That,
I would like to also point out earlier, you mentioned, the relation between zoning and NFIP. I think that misunderstanding or miscommunication comes from a place where zoning also has a 50%, I think, damaged regulation, that if it's 50% or greater damage, they have to get a new zoning application. That same standard holds true for NFIP. I just wanted to clear that.
okay, any more questions for Ms. Reed? Mr. McMahon?
I've got a couple of just statements in general. To touch on what Ms. Blazer said, sort of, if I'm listening to what she says, I'm thinking this is correct. This is the way I feel about the floodplain administrator. Whoever we decide to put in, per se, that position, Me personally, it needs to stay in the property assessor's office. Whether they report, whether you have them in office up the street a mile away, I don't care, but they need to report to you.
The county attorney and I spoke about that briefly, and I'm okay with keeping it under my umbrella for a little bit at least, until he can look into some options on legalities. Keeping it under my umbrella, but my issue is time and space. My current staff and myself don't have the time or space to do it. The space situation has been a very big struggle with 4 extra employees lately. We've used the jury room. Christy's been kind enough to let us use that, but of course, you know, that's used during court. It's been interesting, to say the least. So space and all of that is a big problem in time, which would require someone new to be hired.
Also, one other thing that I'd like to point out tonight is, to the lady's point right here, there is nowhere right now that says we're not in the NFIP. We are in the NFIP. We are to build back according to the NFIP regulations unless somebody up here decides to make a motion to say, let's withdraw us from that. That's not happening. So my recommendation to all the citizens is, we're in the NFIP, we build back to the NFIP standards as stated today.
Well,
Just
we have
so that's
no
clear,
choice
because
but
I
to
think
do
a lot
so.
of people got misunderstood that we were gonna have a special call meeting to vote on whether to stay in that or not. There's no reason to vote on anything to stay in it. We're in it, but there's no reason to vote on it unless you're wanting to come out of it.
That's right.
Okay, so I just wanted to make that statement tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And to your point, Commissioner, once we have those assessments, we know exactly who needs the help. Ms. Lane, she has resources ready to dedicate to those folks. We have engaged, I personally engaged the Appalachian Service Project, who comes in and helps people to either repair or rebuild houses. They're ready to help. We just need to know who, so we're ready to just laser focus all we got on the folks who need the help. You'll be glad to know that, Commissioner Brown. Thank you.
Any more questions, Commissioner? Mr. Islander?
I got a statement.
Okay.
Here we are kicking the can down the road again. You know, this was in her office when she ran. When she ran for that office, it's part of it. We've heard from the sheriff, he's just, I mean, he's drowning. We've had a bad audit. Mr. Smith said it's the worst audit he's seen since he's been in the CLB. She says she needs more help. Shalea's office has got 42 job descriptions. And, you know, if we just keep kicking the can and hiring people, I mean, everybody's drowning. And the county has no money. If you've got $2 million ARPA money, then we need to spend it on the flood victims. You know,
I understand what you're saying, Mr.
We're gonna have to
Islander.
settle up and do our job.
Right. I understand what you're saying, and I think the workshop would be the exact, what the answer to what we need at this time. I know where you're coming from, and I agree, because we cannot open up a door to this county that we can't close at any time that you so. If this door opens up right here with you, Ms. Reed, this county won't be able to close it. I promise you, because just like Mr. Islander said, and we're going to talk briefly on it, just like the sheriff, just like Ms. McClure's office, just like any one of the positions here. If they can jump up at any time and say, well, you took it out of the property assessor's office, and it was in the description when she ran for office, I understand what he's saying. So what's going to stop some of these other guys? I would fully understand it. If they did jump up and say, well, you took it out of her office, we need to take the animal shelter out of the sheriff's department because we can no longer do the sheriff's department and do the animal control. Or Miss McClure say, well, we've got rafting here and we're so busy, our office is so flooded, it's so full. We can't do rafting anymore, we need to take it out of our office. Then what are you going to do? Okay? So, we got to have the workshop, please. We've got to have the workshop. We've got to discuss this. We've got to come to, we've got to get our information together, ask all the questions. You all are doing a very good job of it. And all we have to do is come up with an answer that everybody is in agreement with. You too, Ms. Reed. And that's what I say. Is that okay with you guys?
I do have some questions.
That's fine, Ms. Bob.
You're suggesting Miss Allen Gann, correct? Would he be an elected official? Or would he just fall under you?
You would have to fall under someone, that's what we were just discussing about the county attorney looking into the legalities, where that can fall. To Mr. Commissioner Esslinger's point, I believe the sheriff previously used the same TCA code that I did, in the aspect of not being able to change the constitutional duties of an elected official. So I don't know what's legal and what's not right now. I do know that there's a couple of other counties in East Tennessee that have this in the property assessor's office, but a couple is the extent of it across the state of Tennessee. So the TNAO, Tennessee Association of Assessing Officers, has been working on, prior to the flood, removing that from all of the property assessor's offices. They suggested that we try to do that amicably, which is what we had started with zoning in the mayor's office. But again, I think that it would be too much to put on top of zoning as well. So that's why I come to you with the recommendation of hiring someone for this position individually.
And I have a few more questions. I'm holding some information here. At the special call meeting, I specifically asked if FEMA had discussed this with you all. And I got the responses, no. Well, on Tuesday, October 29th, you all were sent an email stating that you needed to do a press release. So people wouldn't start building back, that they would, because we are in this flood thing. The press release and nothing come out or was even said to us until December.
I don't recall saying that we've not been in communication with FEMA about this. I do remember telling you that they told us we needed to set up training on substantial damage estimates and that we couldn't move forward until those were done. So we had that, because nobody here had ever been trained on doing that, city, county, no one. So we set up that training and then we were told we could hire employees out of 1206 time. We brought that in front of you all, got approval for that and started hiring employees. That's the conversation that I recall, but if I said no, I apologize, I misspoke. I will say, I just lost my train of thought. I don't know if there's a question was.
Anything else, Ms. Ball?
I just feel like.
Oh, the press release, I'm sorry. So there was an email thread going around between myself, the mayor, Ashley, and the city with a typed up press release that we were all trying to come to an agreement on. But that was also while we were in limbo on whether that was gonna fall under my office or be moved to Ashley's office. We put that on hold for some time.
For over 20 days.
That is.
Either way, though, they shouldn't have been put on hold, in my opinion. They should have been put out, whether we put it in Ashley's office or not. If that did happen, what she said, it should have went out then, regardless. Because we waited 3 more weeks or whatever it was before we let these people know. Just because we were waiting to see who's gonna do the job.
And, you know, it's like this. It's in your office regardless. And I understand you have a lot of pressure on you. But at the same time, it should have, our people are the ones suffering. You know, I lost a business in this. People lost homes. And, you know, I'm just baffled that this continuously happens, and you and I have spoken, and I told you, you know, things that I've witnessed myself just walking down the hallway in your office. It's very displeasing to see that, and then to know that these people are just waiting, and have been waiting. And Mr. Gann, I don't even know what the criteria is for doing this.
I think Ms. Ball, the workshop will help us a lot. We can get information on that point of of the qualifications and the amount of money that it's going to cost, and what it's going to consist of to move it out and start it over again. It's going to be expensive for the.
I feel like too, Rick, that maybe we need to look at more than just Mr. Gann. We need to have some other people apply for the position as well.
I brought Mr. Gann to you because Commissioner Timlin asked me for a recommendation, so that's why I brought that to you. I would like to point out that currently we're under a 1206 fund that expires at the end of March. That 1206 fund, if we move this out of my office into a different office, will pay for that position through the end of March. Now, that's not long, but I'm guessing because they will also buy the equipment for that individual, the computer, software, et cetera, if we make a decision and move on this before the end of March.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Could we see, Lydia, do y'all have any idea how fast that we can get this workshop done? Because we need to do it within the next week or so, or two.
Well, I know that there's a rafting committee meeting scheduled, I think, for the 4th, and then there's public safety for the 11th.
Here.
Yes. So that's 2 meetings already set up. That's 2 weeks in a row there.
The 4th is what, a Monday?
Tuesday.
This will be a priority meeting, Ms. Shelton.
That's fine. She just asked me about
Right.
meeting dates. It's whatever y'all
As
decide.
as soon as we can, ma'am.
Okay.
Is that okay
We
with
need
the
to
CLB
do it
as soon
within
as
the
we
next,
can?
2 weeks, we need, if we can, if you
I
can schedule
understand.
something within the next 2 weeks, because we really need to get this moving.
Okay, okay. Are y'all in everybody in agreement, as soon as possible, we'll get the meeting set? Okay?
This should fall under the general committee.
But it's a workshop.
It's a workshop.
Yeah.
So it's for silent.
I understand all.
Did you set a date?
Do you have, you probably don't know when the courthouse is even.
No, sir. I always
So
check with
we
Christie.
can do that tomorrow, we can check
I
with the
sure
dates
can.
tomorrow.
Yes,
And we
sir.
can get an email right out to each one of you as soon as possible, maybe as quick as tomorrow, no later than Monday. Get the date for the workshop and get it on. Any more questions for Ms. Reed? I do have one thing I would like to do. I don't know that it's ever been done before. The lady on the second row, please stand up next to the gentleman in the blue shirt. I would like to introduce you to Ms. Reed, the floodplain coordinator. You will go to Ms. Reed's office and you will get the information that you asked for earlier in your statement, that you needed to know the information on your home. Is that okay? Is that okay with you, Ms.
I
Reed?
would be more than happy to speak with you after the meeting. I can hear your question earlier, I would answer this.
The mayor's willing to help as well. So you reach out to the mayor, you reach out to Ms. Reed. She is the property assessor, and she is the floodplain coordinator, and they will give you the information that you need. If they don't have it, we'll find the information that you need. Thank you. With that being said, any more questions for Ms. Reed?
I have one more thing for you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just pointed out that I need to temporarily rescind my letter of resignation. I would like to do that at this time. Till the special call meeting.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mason.
Thank you. Next thing on the agenda, in the matter of including the 2025 holiday calendar in the minutes, no action is required from the mayor's administration. With that being said, I would like to say thank you to each one of you guys out there. Thank you to this community. Thank you for Cocke County. Thank you for working together. Please stay strong. And at this time, I will need to.
You missed D on there, Korean Frank.
Oh, please don't speak that. State client.
I don't have it.
After Macy's.
In the matter of you wanting to rephrase it, you already checked it out.
There doesn't have to be a vote, it just has to be read.
Just for me to include in the minutes.
Just need to be read.
No, it just needs to be read that it was given to you.
Okay, in the matter of reading into the minutes, the reappraisal plan and the personal sheet of the property assessor's office, copy enclosed. So is that what we need?
Yeah, I need signatures, which you do that.
It's
I'm sorry.
It is in our packet.
Yes, okay. So we don't have to approve that or anything, right? Okay, just so you guys have it. And again, thank you guys. At this time, I will need to go into a closed session, the Cocke County CLB, and I will have to ask each one of you to leave the courtroom. And thank you again. You're welcome to come back at the end, but if you don't, that's fine. Thank you again for the meeting.